So, I have this old hammer. I don't really need a ball peen hammer this small. I've got one that's a little larger than this. I've got a couple which are 2-pounders. They're quite useful as hammers. But this I have no particular use for. Now, I kind of quite like the symmetry of the idea of turning this into a punch, a hammer-eye punch, which is essentially one of the tools that you need to make new hammers. But I'm not quite at the stage where I'm ready to make my own hammers yet. You need a whole range of tools. You need a hammer. You need a hammer-eye punch. You need a hammer-eye drift for widening the hole to the right size and for allowing you to keep the shape of that hole while you hammer the cheeks of the hammer out. And you also need a set of fullers, a top fuller and a bottom fuller, to achieve the cheeks and to achieve these fullers here. The bottom fuller would sit in the hardy hole and the top fuller would be on a handle, and essentially that means you need somebody to direct the work by holding the tools there and somebody to strike, and I have nobody to strike for me yet. So this could actually become a tool that I can use now. It can become my hot set. If I upset this into a striking surface and I can draw this down into a chisel with a little bit of a rounded edge on it so that I can rock it across what I want to cut, I can turn this hopefully useless old hammer into a brand new tool. So that's today's plan. Turn this old hammer into a hot set. Okay, job number one. Drill out the old handle. Excellent. You can see the metal wedge in there. Gonna save that for later. Little workshop tip for you there. Don't leave your cup of tea where crap can fall into it. It's the metal wedge retrieved. Put this on my safe. Now, with a tiny little bit of ingenuity, I don't have a hammer-eye drift, but I'm going to be hammering on the top of the hammer here to upset it into a flatter surface so that it's usable for striking. This bit of bar that previously I used as a handle for making my tongs and playing around with making leaves, with a little tiny bit of adaptation, can be made to fit into here so that I can insert it and use it to stop the eye from crushing. It doesn't matter if the eye distorts a little bit, because it's not like I'm making this tool to sell. It just needs to maintain enough of a hole that I can get some form of a handle in there. It doesn't even need to be a particularly sturdy handle. It's not like I'm using this as a hammer and it's got to withstand force. So, grind this down. Okay, it's very rough, it's far from ideal, but I think I can live with that little tiny bit of extra slop. That there should serve my purposes. You can see the hole on this side compared to the hole on this side. Much larger hole. Much smaller hole. You can see how tapered that is, and it's more important that I maintain a taper than it is that I don't lose any of the hole size. So it's time to fire up the forge and then probably finish the rest of this video with a voiceover.
I'm doing is I'm trying to heat up just the ball peen, and then I'm quenching the rest of it, including the hammerite, so that they won't distort too much, just to help the drift because it's a little bit off.
that there. Leave that cool down in there overnight and come back to us tomorrow. Okay, so I forged out the basic shape. Time to give this a rough cleanup and clean up these faces as well as shape the edge so that when I temper it, it will it'll be obvious to me what type of colours I'm getting. I want to temper this back quite a long way, probably to the purples, so that it's quite hard. It'll obviously be harder than hot metal, which will be used for cutting, but it'll still be resilient enough to take the impact. Okay, now I've put a slight curve on the edge there, and I've taken it past the point at which I had the cold shut on the edge. So time to put a bit of a, not quite 90, maybe 70-degree angle on it. Something sturdy, pretty good for cutting under impact. Okay, this is all trued up. Just going to knock the corners off here so there's nothing to mar the hammer face. Then I'm going to have to fire up the forge and quench this and temper it. And this is now ready to quench. So I've got a tin of, it's just plain rapeseed oil. Rapeseed oil's got a very high flash point. So, and I was quenching this in water when I was working on it yesterday. I was quenching up to the top of the eye so that I could hit on this without this distorting too much. So I'm fairly confident this would survive water. I don't know what the actual quench medium for the steel is, but I don't want to actually make this too hard, so an oil quench will probably get me where I need to go. So best fire up the forge and get on with it. Okay. When I run my file over this, I'm not 100% that this is fully hard, so I think I'm going to have to do what I was doing yesterday and water quench it. Okay, this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out while the top half of the hammer is still underneath the temperature that it needs to be, and only the very end of it's at critical temperature. So, water quench, here we go. Quickly clean this up. So I've brought this end to a deep, deep brown, so it's going to be tough, but also still quite hard. When you get it to a blue, which is a spring temper, the temper that they use most commonly for springs, you've exchanged around about 30% of your hardness in exchange for that level of toughness. And it's dark golden brown. That's a sort of a 500 degree temperature, 500 degree Fahrenheit, and that should still be pretty hard. Left this end still quite hot, so hopefully this will soften up quite nicely. Looks like I've got some purples going on in here, and that's probably in the region where I need it to be. Now, as you can see, if I run this along there, it skates nicely, but bites into the top, so that this should be soft enough to hit with a hammer. This should be hard enough and tough enough that it'll be a usable tool. Time to make a handle for it. This is differentially hardened. This is quite hard. This is quite hard. That's quite soft. The end will obviously, against hot metal, it'll soften as you use it, but that's not particularly important. What's more important is that the hammer eye area and the cheeks are hard enough to hold up to this being hammered on, and this is soft enough that it will mushroom slowly and not shatter when you hit it with another hammer. So I'm just going to knock up a quick handle. The handle on this isn't massively important. It doesn't need to be a good hardwood handle like you would with a hammer. It's not taking any force or impact. I'm just going to use this piece of tannalized roof batten that's left over from when we had the roof done recently. Because the grain is good in it, I'm going to use this top portion. Still going to be taking some hits, and the grain in the handle, you should always look for vertical graining, or as close to vertical as you can get, because the impact of a hammer or impacting forces will cause grains lateral to slow.
The word you were looking for is horizontal, Nicholas. Horizontal. Dope.
You don't need to see that though. I'll probably just finish it up and we'll skip to the end. I suppose one thing to note is this is the small side, this is the big side. Don't make the end of this any smaller than the big side. You'll be tapering it down to fit through later. Okay, stick the wedge in here across the grain on an angle. Kind of, if that's the grain, take it on a 45. Cool. Maybe I'll just quickly char blacken this just to toughen it up. This oil from when I did the oil quench earlier and successfully is still warm and lightly boiled. Which is nice. Get some right in the end grain as well. That stuff's so great in there. So there we have it, one hot set from an old hammer. Yesterday's tools is tomorrow's tools. If you enjoyed this, please press the like button and subscribe button, and hopefully you'll follow my project from here on in. Catch you again soon.
quite soggy. There's many faults to me. In fact, if I knew you, you'd most probably try and hit me.